Hello ladies and gentlemen, Gaming Medley here, and today I figured that since Total War Warhammer is engaging in a total war of bullshit by asking fans to pre-order the game in order to play the Chaos faction, which by the way is so fucking stupid that I've actually started ritually praying to Sigmar to smite Sega with the hope that such an action of righteous fury might actually make that goddamn company have a shred of ethics. Instead, I thought we'd look at a game under the Warhammer franchise banner that's actually quite fun and has come out quite recently. As of last week, that game is Warhammer Vermintide, and this is my review of it. Firstly, I'll be going over the game in summary, then I'll go into the pros of the game, followed by the cons, and finally the mediocre and some suggestions I have for the game in terms of what I think it could improve upon. So let's begin. Warhammer Vermintide is a Left 4 Dead style objective-based first-person horde mode game set in the universe of Warhammer Fantasy, specifically the End Times, hence the name. Skaven, aka Ratmen, are taking over the world, and you and 4 other heroes have holed up at an inn in the city of Uber-Psych? I don't really know. A city of nondescript description. After narrowly escaping a Skaven ambush by the skin of your teeth. It's now your duty as a hero of the End Times to join with your hero brethren and end the Vermintide once and for all. You can be one of the following 5 characters who you will see appear on the screen. 1. The Witch Hunter, who uses either a rapier and a gun, a hatchet, or a two-handed sword for melee, and either a repeating gun, double pistols, or a crossbow as his ranged weapon. The Witch Hunter excels in long-range fights, having an excellent ammo capacity and tends to favor fast attacks unless you're wielding the two-handed sword. An excellent utility character capable of dealing out fast and efficient damage. If you like cranky, oldish-sounding men who are badass stovetop hat-wearing gunslingers, this guy is for you. 2. The Bright Wizard, or the Mage type class of the game, uses a variety of fire spell-inducing staves as her ranged weapon and either a mace, sword, or a flaming sword as her melee weapon. As the game's Mage class, the Bright Wizard excels when staying at range and launching flaming fireballs at her enemies or AoEing them down with frightening efficiency. However, due to the fact that her staff makes her overheat, which can lead to her exploding in a fiery burst, she's forced to run in and do a bit of meleeing quite a lot, although once you get a flaming sword, this actually becomes pretty fun too. TLDR, if you like a lot of fire, you'll want to play the Bright Wizard. 3. The Dwarven Ranger, our short and stout tanky fellow, can either use an axe and shield, hammer, axe, great axe, or great hammer for his melee weapon, giving him the greatest variety of melee weapons of any hero, and either a crossbow, handgun, or grudge raker, aka a shotgun, as his ranged weapon. Capable of providing incredible longevity with a sword and board setup, or some nice damage capabilities with a two-hander or a one-handed weapon, and possessing ranged weapons capable of one-hitting most enemies provided you get a headshot, the dwarf is an amazing all-rounder who's an excellent choice for a first-time player. Plus, he's a dwarf. What's not to love? 4. The Way Watcher, your standard ranger class, uses either a sword and dagger, dual swords, a short sword, or dual daggers as her melee weapon, and a variety of bows as her ranged weapon. From bows that fire homing arrows to poison arrows to extremely fast and deadly attacks, if you want to consistently end up first place in damage in my experience, and are willing to trade health for killing efficiency, the Way Watcher is an excellent character in both DPS and utility capabilities. Plus, she's a sassy Scottish elf woman. And finally, but most certainly not lastly, we have our Empire Soldier. Wielding either a sword and shield, mace, arming sword, warhammer, or greatsword as his melee weapon, and wielding either a blunderbuss, handgun, or repeater handgun as his ranged weapon, the Empire Soldier provides incredible longevity with the damage to back it up at close range. Although he might not be as tanky as the dwarf, he's certainly more capable at close range, with his greatsword in particular capable of decimating swaths of enemies in a single blow. If you want to be able to give as good as you've got, the Empire Soldier is for you. The enemies consist of a variety of Ratmen or Skaven. There are several major categories. Normal enemies, who are typically unarmed or are wielding fire pokers, can typically be killed in a hit or two. These guys also have slightly more armored brethren that come equipped with weapons and might take 2 or more hits to bring down. After that, you get into special enemy types which spawn fairly consistently, especially gutter runners and globadiers, as well as rattling gunners, but not as much as normal enemies, or anywhere near that much. Commanders and storm vermin are heavily armored Skaven that hit hard and are most effectively taken down with a headshot from range. That's a pointer to all you new players. Gutter runners will jump out on you from the shadows and stab you to death until a teammate gets them off of you. Packmasters will catch you with a pole hook thing and drag you away from your team, strangling you all the while. Globadiers will launch poison at your team, and rattling gunners, which is a pretty great name, will pick a specific target and burst them down with a hail of bullets, catching anybody who gets in the way of them and their target as well. And last but not least, rat ogres combine combine extreme tankiness and insane melee damage to make for one hell of a fight and are the most bossy type characters. There are also 13 different maps, all of which vary greatly in scope, difficulty, and objective. Now that the summary is finished and you know what you're doing in the game, let's go into the pros of the game and see what this has to bring to the table. First and foremost, it's a much needed new breath of fresh air into the Left 4 Dead style horde mode co-op genre. Unlike Left 4 Dead, however, the combat is melee oriented and makes good on that promise with an extremely satisfying melee combat system. Combining powerful weapons with seemingly infinite one-hit kill enemies that swarm you incessantly, it's hard not to feel godlike while you cleave your way through dozens of Skaven, and the game truly does evoke that heroic feel. However, it's not all fun and games, and the various unique enemy types promise to bring both an incredible amount of rage for your party as well as a tough but fair level of difficulty to the game. The gore and dissection of the enemies is satisfying and grotesque, with severed limbs and heads flying about as you and your party cleave your way to victory, and your screen and weapons are covered in blood. The game has an excellent atmosphere as well. The characters banter incessantly between one another, and although some of them may get on your nerves and you may wonder why an Elvish Ranger has a Scottish accent, their banter is well written, filling your journeys with witty one-liners and battle cries that so far haven't gotten old for me after nearly 30 hours of playing. Each hero feels like they have their own personality, adding an extra layer of attachment to the characters that ensures you'll keep coming back to whoever you like most again and again, even if they may not have the best weapons out of your squad. The Skaven talk in an appropriately basic and barbaric form of English, and hearing them whisper and scream adds personality to an enemy that would typically be left faceless in any other horde mode game. The map layout, visuals, and objectives are wonderful as well, providing atmospheric and challenging set pieces with excellent level design for your mad Ratman murdering rampage. The personality of this game really does help drive it, and even if you aren't a Warhammer fan, you'll soon find yourself wanting to know more about the universe this game is set in. Overall, the gameplay is actually very sound, and the game has a rather amazingly wonderful atmosphere to ensure you keep on coming back for more. But now that we've covered the pros, it's time for the cons. Although the sound design is pretty good, its location usage is not. It's often impossible to tell what direction your enemies are coming from just by listening, which is frustrating and can break immersion to a certain degree. In addition, the game is plagued by optimization issues for many people, and there seems to be no rhyme or reason right now as to what computers can run it and what can't. Mine runs it very well, but people with computers twice as good as mine can't seem to handle the game at all. The servers aren't that great as well, and if you have a bad internet connection, the game quickly becomes utterly unplayable because it requires such split-second reaction time due to the melee combat system. The community right now ranges from toxic to quiet, although I'm actually expecting this to clear up once the elitist assholes get their fill and move on to whatever game they were playing before this came out. Finally, the biggest failure of the game, at least to me, comes down to the loot system. I'm showing you a few examples of it in the background. As you can see, at the end of a successful mission, you're given a bowl which you roll dice into. Your dice roll then determines the loot you can get. Normally, this would be fine. However, in a game where it can take 30 to 40 minutes to finish a mission, getting a piece of loot that's a flat downgrade at the end is incredibly disappointing. The only way to improve your chance of getting good loot is to collect various collectibles around the map, such as tomes, loot dice, and grimoires, which all give you a higher chance to roll loot dice. Tomes, for example, give you a 50% chance to roll a loot face on a loot die as opposed to the normal 1 out of 6 chance for an average loot die, and grimoires give you a die that has a 100% chance of rolling a loot face. However, all of these things are limited in number and scattered about the map, and they're typically pretty hard to find, making it unlikely you'll get them all with an inexperienced group. They also reduce your party's health and make your characters unable to carry things like healing items and potions if they have grimoires and tomes. The system being so RNG is enough to ensure that one night of bad rolls is rage-inducing enough to make you uninstall the game, and that's being pretty kind. Additionally, the loot system is completely unprioritized as to what character you're playing, meaning that you could roll loot for a hero that you're not playing and will never want to play. This means that there's no sense of gearing up your hero since you never actually know if you'll get something to gear up with. The closest analogy I could come up with was this. Imagine you're blindfolded and told that somewhere between 1 foot and 1 mile of you is a piñata or a good piece of loot. Now imagine that once you finally hit the piñata, aka gotten a good roll, there's like a 1 in 3 chance of it not giving you any candy. Now imagine having to spend hours trying to hit a different piñata in a different direction every time if you want to improve your character, which will let you compete in higher levels which have a higher chance of giving you better loot. Yeah, it actually is that frustrating to get good stuff for your character. And yes, there is kind of a workaround in that you can combine 5 items of an identical rarity to make 1 item of the rarity level above them, i.e. say 5 common items into 1 uncommon item, but unless the 5 items you're combining are also of an identical type, i.e. 5 arming swords makes 1 better arming sword, the item you get from it is completely randomized, meaning that once again you can get a weapon for a hero that you never played. RNG loot systems are fine, but they need to have an element of fairness fairness. Good loot systems need to have a set chance to give you something that you will want to use, and then give you ways to increase that set chance. This ensures that you'll keep playing because you know that if you do certain things well enough, your loot will reflect the effort you put into playing the game well. Warhammer Vermintide has none of this, making the game unrewarding to play at a fundamental level. There's no incentive to do well, no reason to perfect your playstyle, because doing so doesn't reward you with anything other than meaningless time efficiency that will go unnoticed and unrewarded by the game, as well as some collectibles that give you a higher chance of getting something semi-useful. And in a game where loot is the only thing you can get to set yourself apart from other players, since the character's looks aren't customizable, having the possibility of going weeks without getting a single useful item, although that situation is incredibly rare, is enough to break the game for people. In addition, you get absolutely nothing if you fail a mission, no matter how far you've gotten in it. This means that, and this has happened to me quite often, you can get to the final boss character like a rat ogre, and on a fluke chance no health potions have been spawning and your party wipes, you're instantly defeated and you get absolutely nothing for the past 20 minutes you've spent playing the game. Characters can be revived while dying, or if they die they can be found and set free by players who are still alive, but if the whole party goes down at once, the mission is instantly done. And since you get no loot and a negligible amount of XP if you fail a mission, people have no reason not to abandon a mission if they get new/inexperienced players who might fail a level, meaning that newbies are regularly kicked from games. So what can the game do to improve upon these things? Well, firstly, the loot system needs to be less RNG, as I explained earlier. The game needs to have an element of progression that it currently lacks, namely it needs to ensure that if you put in extra effort and play better than everyone else, you'll get rewarded for doing so. Finishing a level quickly should be rewarded. In addition, things like a low number of hero deaths or a high number of unique enemies killed efficiently should give you a higher chance of getting better loot. Also, the game could benefit from a currency system, since that would ensure that you could at least buy whatever weapon you wanted with enough time played. Being defeated based on your progress through the level should also give some sort of loot. Some enemies and maps need to be balanced, although they've been working on this quite often. Still, many pugs that I run with on normal mode, especially since you're dealing with a lot of very new players, can't handle rat ogres, since their health combined with damage means that if you're playing with inexperienced people and no one has a powerful pickup like a bomb or a potion, your party might be screwed. Their attacks cause knockback as well, and they just come off as less of a fun enemy to fight and more of a hassle that can unfairly ruin an otherwise good run if they happen to spawn at the wrong moment. Yes, with experienced players who know what they're doing and know to rotate the rat ogre between an Empire soldier and a dwarf for blocking and use strategy and things that new players wouldn't know how to use, rat ogres don't pose too much of a threat, but with pugs they can actually be a real nightmare. All in all, however, the game is quite fun. It currently stands at $25 and there are no shitty microtransactions or pre-order DLC involved, which is great and really rare. I hate number ratings, so instead I'll just tell you whether or not I think you should buy this game based on who you are. If you like Left 4 Dead, Warhammer, good melee combat, fun characters, and don't care about grinding or progressing a character unique to you, then you'll love this game. If you have friends or acquaintances and you're looking for a great new co-op game, buy this one. If you hate a slightly toxic community, dislike grinding for loot, and are not sure if your computer can handle the game, wait a while before buying it, maybe until it goes on sale or something. If you hate grinding, hate RNG, and hate luck-based systems in general, avoid this game. If you want a lot of customization for your character, avoid this game. If you want any sort of single player story, avoid this game. And finally, if you need a game that gives you a lot of incentive to keep playing, avoid this game. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that has been my review of Warhammer End Times Vermintide. I hope you've liked it. If you have, feel free to leave a sub for more content like this and pretty much whatever the fuck I decide to do on my channel. I don't know, it's a mess. I've given up trying to have a set schedule and I just make things that I want to make, which is pretty fun. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you next time. GM out.